Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well here on a Thursday. Seeing some good weather here in New Brunswick. So we get into the middle of March, and after doing the podcast with Shay Tuesday, I was going to do one last night, but I said there's so much happening. Let's just have a loaded Thursday morning podcast. I'm going to get into a lot of different stuff here today. The NFL, it never goes away. I mention that all the time, and it reared its ugly head again. On Tuesday, it was a big day in the NFL when it comes to the franchise tag deadline, which I'll explain and get into. Also, right around the corner for the NFL, and it looks like it's right on the horizon, is a new TV deal. And there was also one that was struck with the NHL. I'll talk about both of them, kind of compare how the leagues are when it comes to money and how good the NFL is and how popular the sport is. And, I think the NFL is the best TV product in the world. And I've never been to an NFL game, so it's hard to compare. But it's pretty nice when you're Sunday and watching the NFL and you can flip between 3 to 4 different games at the same time. At least I think it's pretty great anyway. But obviously the NHL struck a new deal. They're leaving NBC. They're going to, ESPN and, the mothership, as Dan Patrick likes to call it. So I'll get into that. Some big games, this week in the Canadian division, a noticeable healthy scratch in Boston. And, obviously Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl beating down on the Ottawa Senators the past couple evenings. But I'm going to start off with the NFL and start off with Dak Prescott. For the past probably 18 months, there's been the biggest story at the mothership at ESPN has been Dak Prescott. Last summer during the pandemic when there was no sports and the NHL, the NBA were idle, we're just starting to get the golf was going. But, these big debate shows, they don't talk about anything other than, NFL and NBA south of the border. And, the big topic on shows like First Take, Undisputed, every day was, is Dak Prescott going to get paid? What's he going to get paid? What's he worth? Is he a top 10 quarterback? And, it's been, again, 18 months with, he got franchise tag last year. It looked like he was going to get franchise tagged again, and he would make $37.7 million this year. But, about 10 to 8 on Monday night, he reaches a deal with the Dallas Cowboys on a long-term extension. Dak Prescott, signs a deal 4 years, $160 million with $126 million in guaranteed money. And, this contract is it's record-breaking for a number of reasons. And I'll go through them right now. This year, Dak Prescott will make $75 million. That is a record for pro sports for a contract with a player making that much salary in 1 year. He's making $66 million in signing bonus. That's a record. That's the most signing bonus that's ever been given out in the history of the NFL, NBA, and any of the big four sports. And this is for a guy, wait for this, who's won one playoff game in his career. Played in 3, won 1. And it's, I'm gonna go through this whole thing, but I'm gonna start very broad here. This is not about Dak and is he worth it? I'm gonna get to that, my opinion on it. But the fact that, I've had this disconnect, and I've talked to my dad about it because he's a businessman. I can't believe I take this opinion, but, fans hate the player when they think they get paid too much. But yet there's no salary cap on the billionaire who's raking in, money hand over fist. But when a player makes too much money that a player fans or, the media deems too much money, that player is vilified. First of all, today's a great day. This week is a great week for Dak Prescott. $126 million guaranteed. He's making that whether he throws for 1 yard next season or 5,000. So first of all, I'm not going to be one that says he's making too much money. You make what somebody's willing to pay you in pro sports. And that is the bottom line. If you're buying into Apple, you can buy how many shares, you can buy into how many is available. And I look at the same way here. Dak Prescott got $126 million guaranteed because the Cowboys were willing to pay him that. I do not begrudge an athlete for taking money. If you get a bunch of money and you don't perform, that's a different story. I think there's players that get money. You look at Louis Erickson. He got paid a bunch of money by the Vancouver Canucks. He never worked to earn it. He's lazy. He's not committed. I look at him very differently than I would Milan Lucic, who I think got signed because he had a great run in Boston, but you could tell a mile away that his services were deteriorating. I don't begrudge him for taking that money because somebody was willing to pay him for it. And if you're stupid enough to give a player that much money and you know the game's changing, that's on you as an organization. That's not on the player. And I get another example, Erik Karlsson. I live, Seamus and Dawson, I used to live with my roommates, two of my best friends. Dawson was a huge Senators fan. I told him 5 times, and he loves Erik Karlsson. I told him, man, Ottawa trading Erik Karlsson would be the greatest thing for their franchise in a long time. In a long time, since they let Wade Redden walk. And, he kind of fought with me about it. And I told him, this guy's going to break down, and he's going to be one of the worst defensemen in the NHL. And I was I look at myself as a genius on this subject alone because I told him 3-4 times it was going to happen. They trade him. San Jose, again, stupid enough to give him the money. Good on Erik Karlsson. I never loved him as a player. He's got 2 Norris trophies. I think he earned one. I think he was gifted another one because of name recognition. But he got $11 million to play in San Jose. Ottawa, the smart organization, didn't give him that money. And they got a good trade for him. And now they have Sanderson, they got Stützle, and they got some decent pieces in that deal. But in terms of Dak Prescott, again, hating on him for taking money when somebody offers you money, I'll never understand. Yes, there's a salary cap and you want to win. But I look at this and I'll try to explain it when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs and compare it here. People hated Mitch Marner because he wanted money. Would I have given him $10.5 million? No. But if an organization does, you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And, you never look at the billionaire, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. The fans never hate them. They sign bad contracts, but it's not, it's the GM. It's never the centerpiece that takes hatred. I've never seen people hate millionaires more than they hate billionaires. And you're complaining about millionaires most people who come from nothing make money when you got rich guys in suits who come from money making more money, but yet you don't hate them. I think that tells you something about our society and how warped it is, quite frankly. And again, I look at it the Toronto scenarios is the same to me because, people, it's no secret. If you're a Leaf fan, you hate there's a lot of people who hate William Nylander. Why? Okay, he held out. And you know what? You could hate that he held out, but that's just as much on the organization as it was William Nylander. He sat out till December 1st, and that's just as much on Dubas and Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, but somehow they don't take any of the bullets. It's all on William Nylander. It's never the organization's fault. It's the player being greedy. And you got to think about the salary cap. For everybody thinking you got to think about the salary cap, take off your hypocrite hat and think about yourself. When you're 40, are you going to give a shit about the salary cap? Because guess what? In pro sports, there's no such thing as a guarantee. Do you want to win? Of course. But you're going to take less money? Does that guarantee you a championship? No. So why take a pay cut? When you're done and you want to buy a yacht and you took $40 million, you can get a yacht because guess what? You got the money. If you want to have 3 houses, guess what? You can do it. And if you play pro sports, You earned it. You played for a long period of time. More power to you. But taking less money because it's the noble thing to do. Well, what businessman ever takes less money? If you're selling property, you taking less money? No. And this is the thing. If you're an employee at Apple and they say, okay, well, we need you to take a pay cut so that Joe from accounting can move up. We can hire him. We can hire him from Yahoo. Who's doing that? Really think about this on a real microscopic level. Who's taking a pay cut from Apple at any location so that they can hire another person to the company? Nobody. If you have an example, let me know, because I'm going to give them a call and say you're fucking crazy. But again, yes, it's a team sport. Yes, it's about money, but it's also about you. Life is selfish. We're all selfish. And for people to throw shade at people taking money is just ludicrous to me. Because guess what? If you were in that situation, you're taking Dak. If you're offered Dak Prescott money, you're taking it. If you're in hockey and everybody, I'm not even a Mitch Marner. I think he's a good player. I'm not a Leafs fan. I don't care. I'm just using this example because everybody knows it. People saying, well, Mitch Marner took way too much money, the salary cap. Okay. You're in a situation, you're not taking that. So, you're going to take $7 million or $8.5 million for the good of the team? Get off your high horse. You kidding me? Or saying, oh, Connor McDavid, he should have, he took less money. No, he didn't. He's the highest paid player in the NHL. Okay, could have made an extra $500,000. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's all relative, but just this, it just pisses me off. The holier than now sentiment in the media and in fan bases on Twitter when people say, well, he should have took less than this. He's not worth it, because it's not about. Is Dak Prescott's the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL now? Do I think he's the second best quarterback? Hell no. No. But you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And it's about when you hit the market. And for him, he saw Deshaun Watson last year make $39 million. And for quarterbacks, you want to reset the market every time. If you're a good quarterback and you hit the market, you're like, well, I'm making more than him. He made 39. I'm making more than that. We've gone another year. TV money. We got a new TV deal. I'm making more than 39 million, point blank. And for Dak Prescott, he made, his average is $40 million a year. He made more than Deshaun Watson. That was important to him. That's fine. However, pivoting from the money issue, because I just had to address that because it infuriates me. I'm sure you can tell when it's a holier than now attitude from people that would do the exact same thing if put in this situation. He might be a top 10 quarterback, but again, I look at Mahomes, I look at Josh Allen, I look at Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, maybe Matthew Stafford, but he's, again, he's in the 10 to 15, he's 10 to 15 the quarterback range. Tom Brady would be ahead of him. There's a bunch of I'm missing guys. Obviously, Deshaun Watson clearly would be ahead of him. Russell Wilson. He's in the kind of Garoppolo. He's in the Garoppolo, Jared Goff kind of range when it comes to quarterbacks. I think he could be a top 10. He's right there. But he was a 4th round pick that, he was making $600,000 a year his first 3 years in the league. So he finally got his payday. And however, he's making this money, and now it's time for him to really deliver. It's time for him to put up or shut up, because he's playing for the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. They haven't won in over a quarter century. And it's not he's the 4th round quarterback, chip on his shoulder, real good story. Now it's, okay, Dak Prescott, you're the second highest paid quarterback in league history, playing for America's team. The expectation has to at least be compete for a Super Bowl during the duration of his 4-year contract. If that doesn't happen, I can only view the contract as a failure, because you don't pay a guy that much money just to say, well, we won the division. You won the division. You're competing in the NFC East. If I look at the what they have right now in the NFC East. Okay, we'll start with Washington, who won the division last year. They had Alex Smith. They cut him. He's moving on. Again, he was playing on one leg. They have a fantastic defense with Chase Young. Led by Chase Young. They also got some great De'Aaron Payne. They got him in the middle. Their defensive line is top 5 in the NFL. But at quarterback, as of right now, signed, they have Taylor Heineke. He played well in one wildcard game, but he's not a starter in this league. He's played one game in the last 3 years. I mean, you're not confident with Heineke moving forward. So again, he can be thrown out. Kyle Allen, they look like they want to re-sign him. He's coming off a broken ankle. Who knows? You got the Eagles. They traded Carson Wentz to the Colts. They have Jalen Hurts, his second-round pick, started 5 games for them last year. He hasn't played enough. We don't know if this guy's a starter in the NFL. They have the 6th pick in the draft. They say they're not going to pick a quarterback. They want to build around Jalen Hurts. This time of year when the draft's about a month and a half away, I don't trust a damn thing any executive says. Do I think the Eagles could take a quarterback at 6? You're damn right I do. Because they took a quarterback in the 2nd round last year after just paying Carson Wentz over $100 million in guaranteed money. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, like any executive, are liars. So Jalen Hurts is the quarterback right now, an unproven guy. Dak Prescott's better than him. And that leaves the Giants. Daniel Jones out of Duke, coming into his 3rd season. He was the 6th overall pick. He's led the NFL in turnovers through his first 2 years in the league. Fumbles the ball at a record pace. Really athletic guy. But then he hasn't shown enough to me that he's the quarterback of the future. They have Saquon Barkley there. But he's been injured in both this season. He's coming off a torn ACL. So you never know. They franchise tag Leonard Williams, who's their best defensive player. But again, Daniel Jones, I don't feel so confident with him. So you're looking at it. Dallas is the clear favorite to win this division. Do they have some bad contracts? Absolutely. I look at Amari Cooper. They signed Amari Cooper 2 years ago to $20 million, $20 million a year at wide receiver. He's been underwhelming at best. They want him to be an elite wide receiver. He isn't. He's just okay. Zeke Elliott. One of the biggest mistakes teams make in the NFL is signing a running back to a 2nd contract. And I hate it for running backs because it's really unfair. You give the running back a ton of carries during his rookie contract, and then when it's time for him to get paid, his body is broken down. It's the nature of the sport. What they need to do is eliminate, I think running backs rookie contract should be 3 years at the max, maybe even 2 years. The next collective bargaining agreement, because I think these players need to be able to get paid. If you're a running back, you get taken in the 4th round, you're making no money. If you become an elite back, by the time you're ready to get paid, your body's broken down, you're cut, you're not making fully guaranteed money. You leave the game with your body broken down to hell and no greenbacks in your bank account. But Zeke Elliott, he's got a $13.9 million cap hit. He's taken about 2 to 3 steps back. He's not what he used to be. DeMarcus Lawrence, he makes $25 million a year, only had 6 sacks last year. He's supposed to be an elite pass rusher. He's taken a step back every year since getting his money, and he was a major disappointment last year. They got Tyron Smith. He might be Hall of Fame left tackle, but he's had 2 straight years of injuries on his neck. I don't know if he plays going forward because it just seems like such an issue for him, potentially life-threatening down the road. So who knows with Tyron Smith. Zach Martin's another. They missed Lyle Collins all of last year. So Dallas still has they got to shore up that O-line. They have the 10th pick in the draft. Their defense was 4th worst in the NFL last year. They have a new defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn, who's the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. But they're still the favorite, but they need to make some moves. But this was their best bet because Dak, They could have tried to trade for Russell Wilson, but if you're going to trade for Russell Wilson, you're going to have to part with a lot. You likely would have traded Dak in the deal to Seattle, but you're probably still giving up at least another first-round pick, maybe two. I mean, Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, should have two if Pete Carroll knows how to run the ball at the 1-yard line. But I view this as a huge victory for Dak Prescott, of course. He gets his money, he gets his security, but also there's a small little advantage for Jerry Jones here. It's a 4-year deal, but really it's 6 because you can void the last 2 years of the deal for either side. And Dak Prescott's cap hit for this year is $22 million. It would have been $37.7 million if he played under the franchise tag. So because of all the signing bonus and everything, the cap hit's only $22 million. That gives him more room to play around with in free agency, to build a team that's competitive. This year is a huge year because it's year one with the cap hit so small. It's the 19th, so it's in the top 10, bottom 10 of, for quarterbacks when it comes to cap hit. So get some good players around him, especially on the defense. You got a decent offensive team. You can try to add something in free agency, but shore up that defense, and you should be in good shape. Like I said, this division is so winnable. You got the Eagles in flux, the Giants, who knows, and the Washington football team are without a quarterback. So who knows going forward here? But I like that the Dallas did this, and for Dak, it's a massive win. And the people who are probably most disappointed in this contract are, like I mentioned at the beginning, ESPN. I mean, what are they going to talk about anymore? Dak Prescott's got his money. First Take must just be looking like they must be so shocked. Like, okay, what are we gonna talk about here? Like, we got LeBron for 4 different sections a day, and then we got Dak Prescott for another 4. That's our show, Monday to Friday. They got to be scrambling at the mothership right now just to come up with content, because we all know they're not that creative when it comes to coming up with new topics or talking about anything or for other than the major headlines for that matter. So ESPN clearly loses here, but there are also some big winners from Dak Prescott signing his contract, and that's the next crop of quarterbacks. I mentioned you're willing what somebody's, you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you. And for these 3 quarterbacks, with Dak resetting the market, obviously he didn't surpass Patrick Mahomes, but he comes second in line. I look at Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. These guys have to be thrilled. And the 2018 draft class. And the reason being is they can be signed after this season to long-term extensions. It's got to start with $40 million. And this is the thing. Do I think that these guys have to be paid $40 million? I don't think the quarterback contract has to go up every time. But if I'm a player, of course I want to make more than Dak. If I'm Lamar Jackson, I've won an MVP. I've gotten to the playoffs year after year in the AFC North, a much tougher division than the NFC East. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I just had the best season of my career. My second one stunk, but I want to make, what's Dak Prescott ain't better than me. And then if you're Josh Allen, who looked like a rock star this past year, I think he's got all the talent in the world, and he's got a Bills team that should compete for Super Bowls, plural, in the coming years. Hey, why not? So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see. And for these teams, it'll be interesting to see how they manage it. For Buffalo, I think Josh Allen's worth it. Again, he said one really good year. We'll see what he can bring this year when it comes to play and how he backs up his stellar performance this past season. But I like him the best out of these 3. I think his athleticism, his arm, his consistency, his accuracy now, I like him a lot. Lamar, he's got all the talent in the world. He's never going to be elite passer of the football. Going to have great legs. He can make plays. I worry about him long-term when it comes to throwing the football, but who knows with him. Baker, he's had, his rookie season was okay. His second season was a tire fire under Freddie Kitchens. And then this past year with Kevin Stefanski, he was a really great game managing quarterback. You had a great 1-2 punch at running back with Kareem Hunt and with Nick Chubb. And then you had receivers. You had some decent. You had Donovan Peoples-Jones, the rookie out of Michigan. You had obviously Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, and Njoku at tight end. So, he was a good complementary piece. Do I think he's a $40 million quarterback? No. But like I said, he went number 1 overall. He's gotten Cleveland to the playoffs. He beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he can back that up with another good season, I'm sure he'll be pushing for a real good payday. So these 3 guys had to have been smiling. They're happier than Dak this week because they know, hey, these teams are going to have to back up the Brinks truck for us in the not too distant future here in the coming weeks. Some other guys were franchise tagged this week though, and no quarterbacks, but there was some big decisions. Chris Godwin, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was kind of their number 2, kind of dropped in value as the year went along. They had Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. Chris Godwin actually led the team in receptions 2 years ago with the last year's Jameis Winston as their starter. He had a big year, but they franchise tag him. He'll make about $15 million this coming season. I don't know if I would have. They could have franchise tagged Shaq Barrett, which they have in the past. And I would have done that and tried to get a long-term extension because Shaq Barrett is going to make a lot of money on the open market. I would be really surprised if he doesn't make a lot of money on the open market. He's an elite pass rusher. I think he's the best pass rusher in the NFL, or one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He's led the NFL in sacks over the last 2 years. But they decided to keep Godwin. I think they could have drafted a receiver, even at their position late in the first round. Could have traded up a few picks, picked Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU. He looks like a guy that could be a steal in this draft for me. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of different traits that you want, and maybe even a guy like Jalen Waddle from Alabama. I could see him really falling because he was hurt a lot of the year, and he's kind of an unknown. So Tampa could have traded up, got Waddle, it wouldn't shock me if in the draft you see Waddle start to drop and a team gets a steal at receiver in Jalen Waddle. For the second straight year, the Washington football team franchise tag their all-pro right guard, Brandon Sheriff. You had Leonard Williams, which I mentioned earlier from the Giants. He's a great pass rusher. He got franchise tagged. The Jets team captain and safety Marcus May. Probably the most interesting one for me, another receiver, is Allen Robinson. He would have been likely the top receiver on the free agent market. He's played for the Chicago Bears, who's drafted by Jacksonville. He's an elite receiver. I think he's the number 1. Staying in Chicago, who knows what happens there? They have, Mitchell Trubisky is going to be a free agent. They still have Nick Foles under contract, but if Nick Foles is your starting quarterback, you got bigger problems. You got big problems in Chicago. They're still in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. Whether they can put a package together to get Russ out of Seattle, I don't think so, because they don't have a quarterback to send back in return for the trade. But he's an elite receiver. Obviously, he's going to be with the Bears again. But I'm sure a bunch of teams were a little bit upset that he was not available, because I think he would have gotten more money than the $16 million that he got, that he's going to get under the franchise tag on a long-term deal from a team. Some players that were not franchise tagged, which is just as interesting. Aaron Jones, running back for the Green Bay Packers. He's been a really good back for them for many years, but I would have let him go too. Again, you don't give running backs that second contract. They just drafted our A.J. Dillon, 4th round pick out of Boston College. He looked really good last year, especially as the season waned. And they also have Jonathan Williams there, so they got good running backs in Green Bay. Shaq Griffin, starting corner for Seattle. He was not franchise tagged. I think they want him back. He's a good corner, but Seattle kind of in flux right now. What to do with Russell Wilson? They're letting him go. Detroit did not franchise tag Kenny Golladay, a receiver, with Allen Robinson being franchise tag, not being on the free agent market. I think this is really going to help Kenny Golladay. He's a big receiver. He's had some injury problems. Him and Matthew Stafford have been a great pairing when it comes to him getting touchdowns in the red zone. Maybe he follows Stafford to Indianapolis. They do have a good receiving core there with Pascal. T.Y. Hilton's also a free agent, so maybe they replace T.Y. with Kenny Golladay, a bigger receiver. But he's a guy. And then a really interesting name is Jonnu Smith. He's a tight end for the Tennessee Titans. He's good. He's really good. And I think Tennessee would really miss him if they can't re-sign him. I'm sure they're going to try. But he's one of their better receivers. They're going to have Delaney Walker coming back after an injury. But I'd want Jonnu Smith on my roster. I think he's becoming an elite tight end and also a really good blocker. So those are just some stories from the NFL. Also, Tampa Bay re-signed their starting middle linebacker, Levante David. He's played 11 seasons in the NFL, all with Tampa Bay. I think he's the best cover linebacker still in the game. So, Tampa's got some decisions to make with, the likes of AB, with obviously Gronk. They got Shaq Barrett, who's a free agent. A few other guys I'm missing. Ryan Jensen, their starting center. So who knows what they're going to do, but getting David back's a huge piece, and they'll still have Devin White. But I think if they lose Shaq Barrett, that's really going to hurt their team. They're going to have to find another guy, and there's not another Shaq Barrett on the free agent market. But with him being the top pass rusher, him having such an effect on the Super Bowl, and with pass rushers having such an effect on the game, really the most second important player on the team is a left tackle, and because of they're trying to stop elite pass rushers like Shaq Barrett. So I'll see. Next Tuesday is the start of free agency, and it's always fascinating to see what kind of contracts teams are willing to give to players, and I'll be sure to be covering it. I'd like to do a podcast this weekend on the top free agents available and where I could see them going, but I'll keep you posted on that as we go along. But again, the NFL never sleeps. New TV deal right on the horizon. Dak Prescott finally gets his money. Sean Watson, Russell Wilson still out there. We got the draft in about a month and a half. It's fun. The NFL always has content, and you gotta love that about the league. Moving on to the NHL. I talked about a TV deal with the NFL upcoming. That's going to be worth about, it's rumored because ESPN, aka Disney, aka ABC, wants to be in on the Super Bowl. They want to have a Super Bowl in the rotation with NBC, with CBS, with Fox. They want to be included. And also Amazon wants to do Thursday Night Football. They want to have, Fox has it right now. I believe Amazon wants to stream it. They're kind of involved in these discussions. They want to be part of the TV deal. This TV deal in the NFL is going to be worth, I've read over, it's going to be multiple $1 billion. It's going to be a lot of money. And just for reference, I've heard 5 to 10 billion. It could be more than that. And Adam Schefter was kind of spitballing. The NHL deal, this past one they did with NBC, is worth $220 million. And it's a lot of money, but look at the NFL, it's peanuts. They're like, okay, 220 million, hold my beer. But the NHL has a new TV deal. After this summer, when the playoffs are over, the NHL and NBC's partnership is going to come to an end. The NHL has been with NBC since 2004, when it left the mothership. And oddly enough, I never thought they'd go back, but ESPN wants the NHL back. They've signed a 7-year deal with the NHL to be their partner. 4 Stanley Cup finals will be broadcasted on ABC in the United States. And, ESPN is back in the hockey game. It's, ESPN, if you listen, I listen to a lot of different ESPN content. Again, I watch a lot of college football. I watch a lot of football, watching college basketball, even some debate shows. you never hear a peep about hockey. And I don't think you will even with the TV deal. Maybe slightly, but not much. So I'm surprised that they did this. Maybe they think it'll give them new ratings, but it's shocking because what the biggest intrigue for me is what are they going to do? Who are they going to hire? Because, they still have Steve Levy. He's great. He's called college hockey games. He called hockey games with Ray Ferraro back in 2004. He does Monday Night Football now, however. So does he move? Does he do both? What do they do there? So that's one angle. Do they go out and try to poach some people from TSN? I mean, we've seen TSN, they're cutting employees like they're cutting hair right now. I mean, they've cut 3 radio stations in the past 3 months. They're cut a lot of on-air talent. So do they try and go scoop up some really good anchors? Natasha Staniszewski. I'm thinking of people who call games. Gord Miller has been working with NBC, just doing some, part-time work. Do they try to offer him a big sum of money to go work for ESPN? Does Ferraro go back to ESPN? I think these are all questions that have to be looked at because they're going to want some big names to call games. I think wouldn't be shocking to me if Eddie Olchuk's hired by ESPN. He's working with NBC. They're going to lose the hockey deal. Maybe he goes to ESPN after this season. Pierre Maguire, where does he go? I mean, he's one of my favorites. Again, I don't listen to a lot of games with sound, but I think he's one of the best in the world at what he does. Again, pretty much 95% of the world hates him, but I'm a contrarian. I like him. I'd love to, if he goes to ESPN, I think that would make a lot of sense. But for NHL, it's a good thing. More money. They haven't announced what it's worth yet. I'll let you know when I know. When it's said how much money it is compared to the NFL's. That's the one big thing for me is how much better the NFL is at getting ratings, making money, all of the above. But good for the NHL. You get a new TV deal. You go to the mothership, and will the mothership talk about hockey? That'll be the most intriguing thing. I don't think so, but who knows? Maybe the mothership will start talking about some hockey. They still have Barry Melrose under contract. I think he was there in 2004. So interesting to see, but a new TV deal was announced on Tuesday. Monday night I was on with Craig on Under Review, and we talked about, the biggest threat to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Canadian division. And, he said Montreal, and, for good reason, good on Craig. They've got points in 5 straight. They look like they're starting to turn around here. Carey Price has found his game. Philippe Danault finally scores a goal last night. Jeff Petrie might be the best defenseman in the North, in the Canadian division. He is, but he's having a great season. Tyler Toffoli is found his game, but they've turned it around a bit. They're right in the mix with Winnipeg, Edmonton. We're starting to kind of see a logjam of teams here. But my answer to Toronto's biggest threat, and I still think Toronto will win this division. I'm talking about playoffs. It's the Winnipeg Jets. And, Winnipeg beats Toronto Tuesday night. And, I'm sure there's the Leafs' 3rd straight loss. And I know a lot of Leafs fans, and most of them are rational. But, they lose 3 straight. And normally you lose 3 straight and you're a Toronto fan, the sky's falling. Is the sky falling? No. They played well Monday night or Tuesday night. They probably should have won. I don't know. I think Winnipeg played just as well. Hellebuck made some big saves down the stretch. But a couple of things from this game when I see a couple of bad tendencies for Toronto and Winnipeg. Toronto, Austin Matthews scored 2 goals. And this is when I was growing up, I appreciated my dad for this because I think he was teaching me something about life, and I've always took it with me. You could score 2 goals in the first period, but if you dog it the next 2 period, that does not mean you had a good game. Austin Matthews scored twice Tuesday night. I don't think he played well at all. I don't think so. The second goal, the Morrissey goal, I'm really impressed by Austin Matthews' commitment to not block a shot. he does his little figure skating act where he puts his skate in the air, and you looked at Freddie Anderson when the puck went, and he looked like he wanted to wring his neck, which I would too. You know, you don't got to block shots, Austin. That's fine. That's fine. But putting your little foot in the air just because you want to show off your new skates, whatever he's doing with CCM now. Okay, that's fine. But just get the hell out of the way. What did Don Cherry say? If you're gonna block the shot, block the shot. If you don't, get the fuck out of the way. Yeah, just so that was. But he hasn't looked the same since he's come back. He scores 2 goals in the game, but again, he since he injured his wrist or his hand or whatever happened with him, he hasn't looked like the same player, and I don't think he played particularly well Tuesday night. Yes, he scored 2 goals, but again, that's a deceiving statistic. And another problem for me for Toronto, they got that third line and I think it's a great third line. And if I'm Sheldon Keefe, I don't want to break it up either. You got Engvall, you got Hyman, and you got Mikheyev. Great line. Love it. I think it's a playoff type line. They haven't had a playoff type third line in years. And it's similar to, Goodrow and Coleman, what Tampa did with them. Using them, they can score goals, but they're there to eliminate scoring chances from the opposition. So kudos to Sheldon Keefe for sticking to this line. However, Joe Thornton can't play in the first line. And I love Joe. I don't like saying this, but again, I'm not a sentimental guy. I don't have any love for this team, for any team for that matter. So it doesn't hurt me to say it doesn't affect me as much as to say a Leafs fan. But Joe Thornton can't play in the first line. The past 2 nights, he's always been slower, but it's just, he's out of position. He's not ready. And I wouldn't want to bring Hyman up either because I love him on that line. But you see Zach Hyman's goal Monday night? And that was just, Zach Hyman's not just a worker bee. He's a worker bee when he's playing with Matthews and Marner because they don't go in the corner to get the puck. But he's bringing that elite skill. And I look at this and I say, Joe just cannot play in that top line the rest of the year. And I'm sure Lee Sands will look at me, well, he's not going to. It's going to be Wayne Simmons. Wayne Simmons is going to come off an injury for 6 weeks. And he was playing great for about 4 to 5 game stretch. But the past 2.5 years, when did Wayne Simmons play great? He was injured all the time. He was really inconsistent. Look at his stats in New Jersey and Buffalo and at the tail end in Philly. When was he playing really great hockey? He wasn't. So if your option is, well, we got Wayne Simmons to play with Matthews Marner, you can't just put a garden gnome on that line because, if Matthews is healthy and those two are clicking, that's okay, but you can shut down that line. We've seen it. If you can shut down, if the Leafs defensive play can shut down Connor McDavid, an elite team can surely shut down Matthews and Marner. And I believe that fully, and no hesitation from me. Winnipeg, for me, they need to improve their defense. I love Pionk. I think he's one of the more underrated players in hockey, quite frankly. I think he's a really smart player. He can get his shot from the point. He moves really quick to get a shot through screens, through potential blocks, and through Matthew's skate 10 feet in the air. Morrissey is playing really good hockey, but I look at Derek Forbort Tuesday night for me. He can't play. I wouldn't want him in my lineup. He's big. He's a big guy, but he turns the puck over far too much. He's slow. Maybe in your bottom 6 playing 10 minutes a night, but not your second pair. They just lost Nathan Beaulieu. He left the game. It looked like a broken hand to me. He got the puck that shift. He could hardly pass the puck. Wouldn't be surprised if he broke his hand and broke his wrist. So that's another defenseman. So they need to add one. Need to add one for sure. But I look at Winnipeg's top 9 forwards. It's better than Toronto's. As good as Toronto's forwards get hyped, Winnipeg's better. They're top 9. It's at least as good. You got Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers, Stastny, I say Wheeler already. Connor. I mean, they can come at you in waves. Mason Appleton's emerging as a really good player. You got Adam Lowry, my guy. Andrew Kopp, who's a barnyard dog. But I would say that, and just their defense. I think Winnipeg can add to their defense. Toronto adds a top 6 left winger. And I do think it has to be a top 6. I think it has to be an impactful player to their top 6 forwards, because their left wing is really thin. You can put Hyman on the left wing. If you, other than Hyman, you don't have a lot of great players to plug and play. And if Simmons or Thornton is your answer long term, that concerns me. Now, should the Leafs fans be totally concerned? No. They play again tonight. They play again Saturday. You lose the next 2, Winnipeg's back by a point. Then you're concerned because you play another 6 times, and I think Winnipeg's better than Toronto. But you got Edmonton, who's playing Ottawa this week, so they're getting closer in the standings. You got Montreal is trying to find their game. Every team's going to go through a slide. Toronto's still a very good team. And I think they're a couple pieces away from being a real elite team. But for them, it's still finding that consistency in their game. And I think they'll always have doubts internally and externally until you see them produce in the playoffs, which remains to be seen. The Central Division. Again, the Canadian Division, talked about ad nauseum. But the 3 top teams in this division are all really, really good. You got Tampa Bay, Carolina, Florida. I mean, they're all separated by 3 points. And you got Tampa, who finds a way to win. They play terrible against Detroit on Tuesday night, but they scored a goal in the 3rd. They win it in overtime, of course. Carolina's down to Nashville the whole game, down 2-0. Jordan Staal scores one to get it going. They get another goal by Niederreiter. Then Jordan Staal gets an overtime winner. He's got 10 goals on the year, Jordan Staal. I mean, they find a way to win in overtime. And you got Florida, who's playing against Columbus. They get thoroughly outplayed. Bobrovsky has one of his better games of the year. They win 4-2. Big win for Florida. And they get goals from the likes of Mackenzie Weegar. Hornquist adds another one. It's not just Huberdeau and Barkov. They're starting to see production from the bottom of their lineup. Noah Chari's been scoring a lot of goals for them. I just look at these 3 teams. There's 30 odd games left. It hasn't like they play, it's not the time where, is Florida for real? I mean, they played a large amount of games and they're playing at a very high level. Carolina's playing at a very high level with, Nedeljkovic and Reimer in net. You got Tampa Bay, obviously they're an elite team, but they're without Kucherov, but they're still winning. And I look at these 3 teams, and if I compare it to Canadian Division, you got Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton. I think the Central's stronger. The East, right now, it's the Islanders, Caps, and Pens. I think you make the argument that the top 3, how they're playing right now, the Central is better than that. And then the top 3 in the West is Vegas, St. Louis, Minnesota. Stronger than that. I mean, this Central Division, which was put down and really said, well, this is going to be a non-factor. I think it's the top 3 in this division is bar none the best in hockey in any other division when it comes to 3 teams. And kudos to this division for playing really consistent hockey and playing really competitive and entertaining hockey as well. I know it's probably not a lot of fans' top priority to see Florida Columbus on a Tuesday night. I watched a lot of that game. I got the computer going. I got the TV. For some reason, I really enjoy watching Florida. There's something about their team build. I think Huberdeau, really fun player to watch, how skilled he is with the puck. But even Carolina, they muck it up. They might not be the prettiest team on paper, but they win. They're effective. So if you're Carolina and the narrative is, oh, you're boring, or you're not fun, who gives a shit? We got the 2 points. We got you guys with a lot to prove on Carolina and Florida, and they continue to hang in there with Tampa Bay in this division. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes. You still got Columbus, who's trailing Chicago, who's in the fourth playoff spot right now, by 6 points. And, this week, kudos, Tuesday night was Patrick Kane's 1,000th NHL game. Saw some cool tributes from the likes of Dominic Hasek. Jonathan Toews sent Kaner a message. I think Patrick Kane's, it'd be him or Chris Chelios, but the greatest American hockey player of all time. And, you could say American. I think he's one of the best. I think he's in the top 20 best NHL players of all time. What this guy can do with the puck and his just mastery of finding guys open, the way he passes, the way he can get backhands off his stick, it's pretty incredible. And he's been giving to the game for so long. And when I mean giving, just providing a great product. And, I applaud him on a great career so far. And if he can keep this season going, don't be surprised if you see Patrick Kane, Chicago Blackhawks, make the playoffs. You see Jeremy Colleton win Coach of the Year, and you see Patrick Kane win the Hart Trophy for the second time. But congrats to him. Hopefully Jonathan Toews can come back for the end of the year. I'm holding out hope, and he's my second favorite player of all time. I love watching him play, and obviously I want him to be healthy more than anything, but I know how much he loves playing the game. So hopefully we can see him on the ice sooner rather than later. Also Tuesday night, and it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, but Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins was a healthy scratch. Bruce Cassidy, who's an honest coach with the media. I love Bruce's. He's a coach that I'll listen to his media scrums because he'll actually give you something. He's not just, we got to get pucks deep and, just sleep. He said it. Jake hasn't been good enough. His effort is not good enough. It's not to the level that we expect here. And you sit him. Love it. It sets a culture, sets a tone, and it sets expectations for the entire roster. He's a healthy scratch, was playing in their top 6 all year. Now the big thing is, are they going to trade him? For Boston, they're getting no scoring from their top 6. Maybe there's a trade that's available where you can go a player for player type trade for DeBrusk. I like him as a player. I think he's kind of like a Max Domi, but it's better than Max. But I think they've had similar careers where they've been really good in stretches and then really, really inconsistent. And, DeBrusk, unlike Domi, has played his entire career in Boston. But this year's been tough. I think Cassidy's really starting to wear thin on him. And it might be great to see him get a fresh start. A team that comes to mind for me that I think would take a flyer on him. I mean, he's not just a flyer. They'd have some expectations, but the Edmonton Oilers, they could use another guy in their lineup that he could play in the top 6. I think of, they got Draisaitl and McDavid playing together right now, which in theory is great. When you're watching the games, who doesn't love watching 2 of the top 4 best players in the world play together? But long term, I don't think it's the answer because your other lines aren't going to produce anything. Throw DeBrusk into that top 6. I think you play him with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. You get McDavid playing with Puljujarvi and RNH. It's a pretty strong top 6. If you're Boston in return, you obviously would want some scoring. Again, Edmonton probably wouldn't be able to produce that right now. But I think it's a tough trade. Maybe you float an Evan Bouchard or something in the deal. They price him pretty high, but maybe there's something on the roster that would intrigue Boston to take a flyer on. But I don't think DeBrusk's value is super high right now. So Boston trading DeBrusk anywhere, I don't think they're going to get what they want back in return, maybe even 6 months ago. But they're playing the Rangers tonight. I suspect he'll be back in the lineup after being a healthy scratch the other night. They lost to the Islanders in the gimmick. But Boston's going to find it here. They're in 4th in the East, just above Philly. And, Philly beats Buffalo the other night. Buffalo's got a 4-1 lead in the 3rd period, and they choke it away. After Carter Hart gets pulled again, he's got to find one of those old school tapes on VCR and like how to be a goalie and just learn the fundamentals of a save because he can't figure it out right now. Yeah, he's got to find. I don't like harping on him because I do it a lot, but They bring Moose in the game. He settles down. Buffalo, being Buffalo, blows a 4-1 lead. Philly wins in overtime, 5-4, 8 straight loss for Buffalo. But who knows what happens there? But interesting for sure. And then I mentioned already, but I'll just mention it. Last night, Draisaitl 5 points. McDavid had 3. Draisaitl with a hat trick. Ottawa gets smashed 7-1. It's gonna happen. But Edmonton's got Ottawa this week, 3 straight. You got to take advantage. They got Ottawa 3 straight. They play them again Friday. And they got Vancouver Saturday night. You're playing the worst teams in this division. You need those points. And good on Edmonton. Win these games after your tough trek against Toronto. Stay competitive with them. They do play them a few more times for the end of the year. Maybe you can make a push, at least be competitive and battle for second in the Canadian division. So they're doing what they have to do in Edmonton, and it's been a good series. Been a kind of a tough series so far. We saw Goodbranson fight Jujhar Khaira Monday night. Goodbranson beat the hell out of him, but good for Khaira for at least taking the fight. But I suspect a better effort from Ottawa Friday night. Tkachuk was pretty pissed after the game, and he's a guy that brings the fight to the game, and not just, I'm not saying drop the gloves, but just brings that emotion and brings the team into it. So we'll see what happens there. I'll talk about Minnesota maybe tomorrow morning. They're another team that's really been impressing me lately, beating Vegas in back-to-back games. But a couple other events going on right now. We got the Tim Hortons Brier. It's heating up. Kevin Cooey was undefeated until the 4-time Brier champion until last night. He loses to John Epping of Ontario. Big win for John. But Cooey's already booked his spot into the championship round, which starts tomorrow. So teams play 8 games until tomorrow. Then they break up into their groups. They play 4 games over the course of Saturday and Sunday. And top 4 teams advance from each pool. They play 4 games Saturday. 4 games, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. So 4 games on Saturday and Sunday. The top team will get an automatic bye to the final Sunday night. Second and third will play Sunday afternoon to play the number 1 seed for the Brier. Cooey's look great. We've seen Brad Jacobs and Team Northern Ontario defeat Gunlinson from Manitoba, who was undefeated prior to last night. So Jacobs gets a big victory, blanking him 3-0 in that game. James Grattan of New Brunswick was off to a great start, 4-1 till they got some good teams. They lose to Manitoba. They lost to Alberta. They're going to need help to get into the championship round. Botcher plays 2 games today. They're going to need a loss, and New Brunswick's going to have to win today for them to get into championship round. But they've been competitive in a tough group, and credit to Grattan and Team New Brunswick for being in it. In a lot of years, we see New Brunswick kind of be 0-3, 0-4 right off the gate, and then they try to battle back, and it's too little, too late. I suspect that'll happen again today because Botcher and his team are one of the best right now in Canada. But we'll see what happens. But I love the Brier because you got a lot of great talents. You still got Gushu, who's picked up his game. They're 5-2. Again, John Epping out of Ontario. You got Brad Jacobs from Northern Ontario. Friday at 4:30 will be the start of the championship round. Those are all must-win games for the likes of Cooey, Gushu, Jacobs. It's going to be a dogfight to get into the final 3, and having a good record going into that championship round is paramount because you carry your record, and whoever has the 3 best records moves on. So Cooey losing last night does have a lot of big value because now teams are only a game behind him when it comes to head-to-head. And for Epping, he can say he beat Cooey, the only team to beat Cooey so far. So kudos to them. But again, the last day for preliminary round, and then tomorrow afternoon we'll start the championship rounds of the Tim Hortons Brier. Then also today starts, every Thursday is a new golf tournament down in Jacksonville. We got the Players Championship. And, no Brooks Koepka, but we know obviously Tiger Woods, but, Phil Mickelson's already started teeing off this morning, and it's a great field. 3 featured groups, 2 featured groups this afternoon. We got John Rahm, Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth. Other than Rahm, We got multiple time major champions there with Reed and Spieth. Spieth, again, hasn't been able to play well on Sunday, but he's playing some consistent golf the other days of the week. And, you got Rahm, who probably was the second best player in the world last year, and Patrick Reed, who's coming off a win just 2 weeks ago. Then another group, you got Bryson DeChambeau winning last week. You got Zach Johnson, a former major champion. Then you got Dustin Johnson, obviously the number one player in the world. So these two groups are teeing off just after each other. They'll play in the afternoon today, in the early morning tomorrow. But two great groups for sure. I'm sure Koepka would have played with Bryson and DJ if he was healthy. But it's a great feel. Again, Phil Mickelson is on the course right now this morning. You got Colin Morikawa took a week off last week for the Arnold Palmer, but he's back on after winning just over a week ago. So we got a fun weekend of golf. Beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. Should be some good weather. Again, more fans, and we saw fans last week. They're going to continue. And if I'm looking at this tournament, it's tough. It's always tough to predict. But Jon Rahm seems like a guy who's due for a win. He's played kind of okay so far this year. That's kind of my guy. I'm kind of thinking maybe Jon Rahm will make a push for the top of the leaderboard this weekend. Get some momentum going into Augusta. Again, he's never won a major. He's 25, really good golfer. He's due to win one. I mean, he's too good not to have a major on his resume. But you look at it, Dustin Johnson, he's only got two. He's a great number one player in the world. But until he won Augusta, that was only his second major. He'd won U.S. Open to his credit. So it's not easy to win majors. We see a lot of guys Danny Willett won the Masters in 2016. It was one of the biggest upsets in the history of golf. Gary Woodland winning the U.S. Open 2 years ago. So golf's unpredictable, and sometimes guys just have a great week, and that's what it is. And, I mentioned fans being at these golf events. It was also announced, Texas, they're basically opening up. They said, COVID's basically over here. We don't got to wear masks anymore. And in a sense, I think it's, really not safe and probably not a good thing. But, I'm sick of COVID. I talked about my mother with it every day because I call her Fauci. She's really into safety, and I'm kind of caution to the wind kind of guy. So we kind of butt heads on that. But, the Texas Rangers announced that in their final two preseason games and in their home opener, they plan on having a full stadium. If they can sell the tickets, 40,000 plus fans will be at Globe Life Field and at Globe Life Park, sorry. And actually the Blue Jays are the first team to go there. So that'll be interesting. They're obviously playing in Dunedin right now. I think they plan on moving up to Buffalo at some point this year. But that'll be the Blue Jays with a full park in Texas. So it's good to see that, at least maybe even if it's not 100% safe, whatever, that the world is starting to pick up. People are traveling. People are attending sporting events. It's a step in the right direction. I know it can seem like we're stuck in the mud because we're getting, 12 vaccines a day up here in Canada. But I love seeing it. Again, I don't need fans at sporting events. I've learned that over the past year. I listen to the games with no sound. So seeing it's just nice for people to go. But I like seeing the progression. Maybe Canada in 5 years will be there. Obviously, I'm being facetious here, but it's just slow fucking process. But I'm glad at least Texas is going to be able to do that. And it sounds like most stadiums are going to have fans at some capacity, probably not full, but it's a good step in the right direction for our world. So yeah, a lot happening, from Tuesday to Thursday, a lot happened in the world of sports. Another big slate of games tonight. You got Toronto, Winnipeg in their second go around, Florida, Columbus again. You got the NBA, which returned last night, but full slate of games tonight, including Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets going at it. So over the next week, I'm going to podcast Friday. Got 2 podcasts lined up Friday. Plan on doing another one this weekend. This is kind of what's on my slate. We're going to do a podcast with Matt Wright next week about March Madness, kind of a preview to the tournament, teams we like, where we see the bracket going, things of that nature. I'm going to do, obviously, my podcast with Seamus. I'll be doing a few by myself, as I usually do. And I plan on doing a podcast, hopefully this weekend, about NFL free agency and players, where they can go. It's a big day. It's next Tuesday, and we'll talk about that. Obviously, as March Madness is going, me and Matt are going to do 1 to 2 episodes a week and break down a lot of that, and some other guests coming up. So it's gonna be a busy time To The Point, but I love it. You got March Madness, you got hockey, the NHL trade deadlines on the horizon, the NBA trade deadlines on the horizon. So MLB starting up on April 1st. A lot going to be happening here. I'm going to be covering it. I love it. With all these sports, might have to invest in a second TV, but that's not a bad thing. But for everybody, enjoy the nice weather. Hopefully you're one of the 12 people that are getting a vaccine every day. So get them if they're available, for sure. Let's start fucking doing stuff. But for everybody, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.